Let us welcome today's speaker, Deezer.
Hi everybody, my name is Deezer D. I'm an alcoholic. And first and foremost, I'd like to thank God for my sobriety, because without God, none of this would be possible. And I'm so happy to be here actually today. It's a beautiful day today. And hey, what's up, buddy? How you doing? We could have just left after the birthday people. The birthday people were phenomenal. And thank you, birthday people. Welcome to the newcomers. Hi, Paige. I love this meeting because I haven't seen people in a long time. It's so funny because when I came to this meeting right now, when I walked in here, saw a couple of guys I know, said hi to a couple of people, and so I go to the bathroom and I'm standing in line, right? And this brother comes up to me, go, "Man, you blacker than me." It's like, man, he got racial, man. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. Don't think I didn't hear that in high school, man. I love Alcoholics Anonymous, and the reason why I love Alcoholics Anonymous is because we're people that would never normally mix. And I have a lot of different friends in here that would have never been my friends back in the day at all, unless you had some to drink or smoke or snort. Then we could be friends for a minute. But that's what I love about Alcoholics Anonymous. And, I remember one of the places I got sober out in the desert. And I remember, when I went out there, it was this guy, and you know how we try to be politically correct. And back then, nobody was really being politically correct when I was getting sober. And this dude, he didn't know what to say because he never really had a black friend, right? Now we know to say Latino, Asian, Caucasian, African American. I still say black because I'm black. Watch out, man. And so the crazy thing about it, man, he really liked me, but he didn't know what word to use. So he said, "Hey, I really like Deezer D. He's such a great guy." And they go, "Deezer D?" He goes, "Yeah, the colored gentleman." I was like, he ain't got no black friends. Anyway, I thought that was funny. But it's good to be here. I'm sure some of y'all got one black friend for safety, and everybody does. Just to prove yourself. No, Jackson, he works at my job. He plays golf with me. My sobriety day is October 20th, 1992. My sponsor is Carl Morris, and I'm grateful to be here. I come from a family of alcoholics. I grew up in L.A., not in the Palisades. I grew up in South Central L.A. I moved from South Central L.A. to a city called La Puente. So really, I moved from the ghetto to the hood. Wasn't much of a difference, Most people move on up. We just kind of stayed there. And I have two brothers and a sister. I'm the oldest one in my family, and my father was the alcoholic in our family. Our family would get together all the time, and they would get together and fight and drink and make up the next day. A lot of you guys probably see my family members on television. I don't know if y'all watch Cops or Jerry Springer or anything like that. Probably see some of my family members on there. Uncle running through the alley with no shirt on, but and so my family would get together every week, and they would party and drink and get high, get loaded, and they would fight, and the cops would come and everything. And then what was so crazy is everybody would make up, and it was all good, and they do it the next weekend like it never happened. You know what I mean? My mother's side of the family was the side of the family that was kind of crazy. You know how you got the crazy side of the family, and then one side of the family is kind of normal? Well, my mother's side of the family was crazy because all my uncles never really had a job. And I used to be like, "Well, what does Uncle so-and-so do?" "Oh, we don't want to talk about that right now." And then my father's side of the family was the people that was kind of serious and everything. And my father would tell me and my sister, he says, "Hey boy, go get me a beer out the fridge." I would go get a beer out the fridge, pop it, drink the beer, share with my sister, and we give it to my dad. He'd be, "Hey boy, go get me a beer out the fridge," get the beer, drink it, give it to my dad. And then one day we drank this beer, and he was like, "What the hell is my beer?" And my sister did the same thing, but she didn't end up in Alcoholics Anonymous. I ended up in Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't blame my disease because my father was an alcoholic. I heard a story a long time ago, and the story went like this. A guy said, there was two twins, and the father was an alcoholic. And one twin said, somebody asked one of the twins, they said, "Hey man, how come you don't drink?" And the guy said, "Because I saw my dad, and he was an alcoholic." And they asked the other dude, says, "Why do you drink so much?" He said, "Because I saw my dad, and he was an alcoholic." And so that's why I don't blame my parents or my upbringing about drinking, because there's a lot of people that was worse off than me that never drank, And, I lived in a neighborhood where everybody kind of drank. I went to high school and I played football and I did all these wonderful things. But I had a little drinking problem. And the first time I ever had a drink was when my father gave me the drink. But when I got in high school, that's when I turned professional. And I remember when I was younger, I used to have a football coach, and my football coach used to say, "Some of you guys are going to get drunk. Some of you guys are going to be gangbangers out there if you don't get serious about life." And I used to think, not me, I'm probably going to be a professional football player, basketball player or something, but I'll never be an alcoholic. And he says, "Some of you guys are going to be drinking at the liquor store with Frito." And Frito was like our local alcoholic in the neighborhood, the guy that's asking for change and quarters and everything. And I thought, I'll never be drinking with Frito. That'll never happen to me, And I remember that day, and I remember that like it was nothing. Like that was one of the things that always that stood with me. And so by the time I was going to high school, I was drinking all the time. And how I became to get my first drink in high school, I was going to school, and somebody offered me a can of Old English 800 malt liquor. And they said, "Hey, do you want a drink?" And I said, "Yeah." And it was no peer pressure. So I had that drink of Old English 100 malt liquor. And I went by there every Friday. And I didn't really try to drink too much because I was an athlete at the time. And I got kicked off the basketball team when I was in high school because my ego was so out of control. I was a pretty good ball player. And then after my 11th grade season, I remember going to my senior year, I had an attitude problem. And one day the coach, said he was tired of me, and he kicked me off the team because I was just playing games too much. And I remember when he was kicking me off the team, he stuck his clipboard in my throat. And I remember trying to swing at him, and I missed. Papers went flying everywhere, and he said that was it. And I remember trying to make amends to him. Gotta wipe this sweat off me. I'll be sweating chocolate up here. And I remember going to my coach, man, and I was trying to apologize to get back on the team. And I remember apologizing to him, saying, I really want to get back on the team. And I remember he was just shaking his head saying no. And I was jacked up after that because that was really my thing. My thing was I thought I was going to be a professional basketball player. And I remember leaving, and I went to the liquor store. And when I got to the store, I got a bottle of Boone's Farm. And I got that bottle of Boone's Farm. Did you just say, uh-huh? Yeah, bottle of Boone's Farm. So she got excited right now. Hell yeah. And so I got a bottle of Boone's Farm, cracked it, and I drank it, and there I was sharing it with my man Frito, Something I said I would never do. And the most demoralizing thing was my mom was driving by, and she saw me drink it with Frito. And my mother was just shaking her head when she saw me. And I don't know if y'all know, but when black women do like this and they shake their head, black mamas, that means you're going to get your ass whooped when you get home. And that's kind of how it started for me. And then I was in the neighborhood drinking and, doing what we do in our neighborhood. Everybody, where I lived at, everybody kind of like sold drugs, drank. It was just open to do anything you wanted out there. But sports and things like that always kept me like it. Kept me in a positive area. And one of the other things that I don't want to leave out, that, after high school, we formed a rap group, you know what I mean? And we was in the garage, right? And what we did for rehearsal is we drank, got high, listened to everybody else's music, and said they suck. That's what we did for rehearsal. And we was like trying to figure out how come we couldn't get a record deal, and the reason why, because nobody wrote lyrics, nobody played an instrument, nobody did anything. And that's that full flight from reality that they talk about. Like, we was serious, like we would sit there and be like, man, I can't understand how'd they get a deal and we didn't get a deal. And everybody be sitting there drinking and go, I know, huh? You know what I mean? But nobody did anything. Nobody did nothing. But we was known for doing nothing. And anyway, I finally got out of the garage and I was coming to Hollywood. And, Then I was trying to be an actor after high school, and I was coming out here, I was taking the bus, and I was telling all my friends I was an actor, and I was going back to the neighborhood like, yo, man, I'm an actor now, you know what I mean? And I really wasn't an actor between us. I was an extra. And, y'all know what an extra is, right? Yeah, you need a pause button to see me in the background. And, but I was telling everybody, yeah, I just did this movie, I just did this, and I just did that. And really, I was just lying. I remember one dude called me out, and he just said, hey, man, you know what? I ain't never seen you in nothing. And I couldn't even say nothing, because he was right. He ain't never seen me in nothing. And what I would really do is I would go on sets, and I would drink on movie sets. Being an extra, I would drink on a lot of movie sets, and I was in the background, and I'd find other alcoholics. That's what we do as alcoholics and addicts. We can find another alcoholic anywhere we are. So as soon as I go on the set, I just kind of, put my radar on, who likes to get high, and you can spot those people, you know what I mean? We can find them anywhere. Like I always say, alcoholics and addicts, we have more faith than any religious group there is. We really do. Because I can wake up with no money, don't know where I am, don't know nobody in the city, but by faith, I'm going to get high today. You could drop me off in the middle of the desert, blindfolded, no money, butt naked, but at the end of the day, I guarantee you I'm going to get high. And that's faith at the highest level. And when I came in Alcoholics Anonymous, that's what I had to do. I had to flip it like that. I was like, man, I have faith out there. I should be able to have faith in here. And that's kind of how I went down. And I finally started doing some acting legitimately, and I started working, and I'm started making money, and I'm doing these commercials. But I got a drinking problem. And I didn't know how to stop drinking now that I'm being successful. How do you stop drinking and be successful at the same time? I didn't know how to do it. So I started thinking about, what did my dad do? Because my father was a functional alcoholic. Because I remember one time I asked my father, I go, you're an alcoholic. He goes, I'm not an alcoholic. He says, I take care of you guys. You guys got food on the table. I go to work every day. I'm not an alcoholic. So I figure like, okay, he's not an alcoholic. He's right. Frito was alcoholic. My dad's not the alcoholic. So I tried to do what my dad do. So every day when my dad came home at 4 o'clock, he popped a beer and got a drink every day at 4 o'clock. So I said, I'm going to do that now that I'm on my own. So every day at 4 o'clock, I drank some beer, but I wasn't drinking the beer. I was drinking like a 40 or something like that. And I would wait for 4 o'clock. And also it would be a good time because maybe, I wouldn't have any, last minute auditions come in. But I'm a real alcoholic that they talk about in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, where they talk about the real alcoholic. So I start going at 10 minutes till 4. Then I start going at 3:45. Then I start going at 3:30 because I want to let the 40 chill in the freezer for a while, And I remember one time I started drinking, and they called me in for an audition at 5 o'clock. And they sent me home, and they said they never wanted to see me again because the part wasn't for a drunk guy. And that's when I really started knowing I had a problem with alcohol. And, I want to get into recovery and how I got sober. And how I got sober was I didn't really know a lot of people in my neighborhood that was getting sober. Nobody was talking about, hey, man, did you get sober the other day, man? Nobody was talking that kind of talk in my neighborhood. And they used to have, commercials and stuff, come on back in the day. And if you didn't drink or use, I didn't really trust you because I thought something was wrong with that. Because everybody I knew drank and used. You may not be crazy, but you drank and used. And the first time I heard of even AA was a friend of mine. So I was hanging out with him. We would go to clubs and everything. And I said, hey, man, I noticed you don't drink. How come you don't drink? He says, oh, man, I'm 7 years sober. And, I used to do crack. I don't drink anymore, blah, blah, blah. And I did like that girl who took the cake. I go, oh, good for you. And I drank up, good for you. And I went home, and my life is good, and I finally moved out of my parents' house for good after the 6th time. And I moved to Hollywood and La Brea. And I moved to Hollywood and La Brea, and if you know that area, there's a liquor store right around the corner. And that's where I was doing my thing at all the time. And one day I was at home, and it was at nighttime, and I was tripping out on one of my friends, and a commercial came on television, and it said, are you lonely? I was like, yeah, I'm lonely. Are you depressed? Yeah, I'm depressed. It says, call us at Charter Hospital. We can help you. I go, okay, I'll call you guys. I got insurance. So I called Charter Hospital. I was like one of the dudes that like really called right on the spot. And they called me and they said, well, come on in now. You know what we do as addicts and alcoholics. We say tomorrow. And, and I was going to go the next day. But, I would take Excedrin PMs at night because I would have these crazy hangovers. So I would take Excedrin PMs at night so I could sleep and I wouldn't have a bad hangover. You wake up a little groggy, but you can work through that. And then I wake up because it was a knock at my door the next day. And it was my cousin. And she said, let's go. And I go, where are we going? She said, to the rehab. You called me last night. I go, oh, I was tripping last night. That was last night. My bad. I was just tripping. And she said, let's go. Come on, let's go. And everybody in my family know I needed to go because I was the worst person in my family. I was the white sheep of my family. So I ended up going to the rehab. And when most people go to rehabs, they take like a bag or they take like some a little bit of luggage, because I've been to rehabs. I've worked at rehabs before, right? And, unless you just like, certain people, that's the only time you take luggage. But I took luggage to the rehab. At the time, I was sponsored by a shoe company, so I took like 10 pair of sneakers. And also, I saw the commercial. Y'all didn't see what I seen. The commercial went like this. It goes, welcome to Charter Oak Hospital. Look at the green meadows. Look at the swimming pool. We have a gymnasium. And I thought, man, I better bring all my stuff there because stuff is going to be cracking off here, right? So I better be ready for this place. So I brought about 10 pair of sneakers. I brought my gym shorts because I know I'm going to work out there. Some swim trunks. I bought an outfit just in case they have a dance or something like that there. And I had just finished my first feature film, so I better bring some headshots too, because somebody might need an autograph or something like that. And yeah, I really did. And I remember when they was checking me in, and the lady was looking at, looked at my headshot, looked at me, and she just threw it, man. And I remember going into rehab, and the ego was so out of control. Like I thought I was doing them a favor by being there. That's before famous people was really going to rehabs. This is all they got. This is as famous as they was going to get at that time. And so I thought I was like the cat's meow walking in there. And the next thing you know, man, how I got sober, they would have people come in there and they would say, hey, D, we're doing a 12-step workshop. You want to join us? And I'd be like, nah, man, I just did a movie, so I'm not really like everybody in here, you know what I mean? And they would go, hey, D, we're doing a big book study. You want to come join us? And I'd be like, nah, I'm good, man. I'm not like everybody, you know what I mean? I just did a movie, so I'm not really with all that. And they were like, okay, D. And I stayed at the rehab for 31 days. Didn't hear anything anybody said and relapsed. I heard what they said, but I wasn't putting it to action. They was talking about get a sponsor. They was talking about steps. They was talking about all the things we talk about, and I didn't do any of those things. And I left, and I went back out, and I relapsed. And I didn't get back. Put it this way, it took me 2 years to get 30 days of sobriety. And at the time, I had, like 31 days, and that was the longest I had at that time. I remember when I was trying to get sober at one time, I got 29 days like 3 times. I'm a relapser. So if there's any relapsers in here, I get it. Don't feel bad about yourself. You get it when you get it. Fortunately, I ended up, getting it. And I had met some girl in the rehab, and I moved out to a beautiful city called Yucca Valley where they never seen black people. And I moved out there because I met a girl out there, and, because I was drinking too much in L.A. And she says, oh, you should move in with me. And I said, okay, I'm running out of money anyway, so why not? And I moved in with her, but when I moved to Yucca Valley, I moved there at nighttime. And so when I woke up in the morning, I looked out her bedroom window, I just saw a tumbleweed rolling through. I was like, damn, how did I get here, And I was stuck by that time, and she was telling me about a friend of hers that was going to AA, so she wanted to introduce me to that guy, and that guy was drinking. So what I would do is I would clean up, come back to LA, I would do a movie, and then I'll go back, and I'll start drinking again. Then I would clean up, do another job for a while, and I'll start back drinking again. And a lot of times when I drink, I'm one of those guys who look for lower companionship. You know what I mean? I didn't even know about that word, lower companionship, until I came in here, but I was somebody lower companionship. And I would just drink away, man. And then finally, you know, one day I went to that guy's house that she told me about because I needed a drinking buddy in Yucca Valley, and I went and looked this guy up. And it was Yucca Valley is very hot in the summer. It's like 375 degrees right now, I think. And so I knocked on the guy's door, and I said, hey, man, what's up? He goes, I'm going to a meeting, that's what's up. You want to go? And I was like, man, I have nobody else to hang out with, so I went to a meeting with him. So I go to the meeting with my hot 40 of OD. We get in the car and go to the meeting. Now, you look around at this meeting right now, seriously, you'll see some good-looking people, some sexy people at this meeting, guys and girls. Only 2 people laugh, but it's true. And some good-looking people in here. But that wasn't the case in Yucca Valley. You know what I mean? That's why I hate when people come here and can't get sober. I be like, dude, look. I mean, do it for Carol. You know what I mean? I don't get it. Where I got sober at, I walked in the room and I put on my shades because I didn't want them to recognize me. And it was like 6 people in the room around the table. And everybody was like, first thing I heard when I went in there, if you want what we have, keep coming back. I thought, damn, wow. I don't really know if I want what you have, you know what I mean? And they was sporting big old belt buckles before they was popular. And so I walk in there and I sat there at the table, and they was having a meeting, man, and I would leave and I would go drink. And I would kept going back to that meeting because you know when you go to a meeting, you try to act like you don't really like it, but you hear something positive, and they talking about you, and you be like, oh, man, that ain't me. But it's really you. And so I just kept going back to those meetings, man. And, I mean, it was a different type of meeting, man. I mean, I'm surprised I got sober out there. Like, I give myself credit on that one, you know. Because, like, if you got everybody together at these meetings, you had a full set of teeth. That girl got all her teeth. She fine. You know, that's how it is there. Like, you was a girl and you had all your teeth, you was winning. So anyway, man, I'm in Yucca Valley, and I ended up getting sober there. And what happened was a guy said, hey, you. I go, me? He goes, yeah, you. He goes, have you done your steps? I go, huh? He goes, have you done your steps? I go, no. He says, come with me. So I went with this guy. He says, I'm going to show you the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm going to take you through the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Once I show you this, you're going to have to show another alcoholic, and that's how you're going to keep your sobriety. I was like, what? So this dude came and took me to a meeting every day. I mean, going through the book every day with him. So I went through the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. He took me line by line, step by step, and I ended up working all the steps. And he says, now you got to show somebody else. And you know what, you guys, I've been doing that for 23 years, taking people through the big book. If I don't do anything right, if I never do anything in my life, I know how to take somebody through the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I know how to do it because I've done it so many times. All the time I'm taking people through the book. And that's how I've been able to stay sober. I go to meetings too, but that's how I've been able to stay sober. That's been my secret to sobriety. You know, after getting sober, after a year, you know, I got a phone call. And, you know, because I had quit the business, you know, completely to get sober, because I went to a meeting every single day for 365 days. I was sold out to Alcoholics Anonymous. I knew that I had to walk that narrow road in order to get sober. And after a year of sobriety, I got a phone call, and they said, hey, we want you to be on a TV show. If the TV show gets picked up, we'll sign you on for 5 episodes. And then I ended up doing this show for like 15 years. And I did the show for 15. I don't say that to brag to anybody, but, you know, a good day for me back in the day was a 40-ounce, a joint, and you stayed off my pay phone. That was a good day. Young people can't relate to the pay phone, but the pay phone was something special back in the day. It really was. And I had it going on in my neighborhood because I had a pager. So I was doing big things. And ended up working on a TV show for like 15 years, ended up getting married to a beautiful woman, and had a rock star wedding. My life was just phenomenal. And then at about 13 years of sobriety, this woman that I married came up to me and said, you know, I really don't want to be married anymore. And said it wasn't working for her. And my son was 4 months at the time. I've never been through any pain my whole sobriety. You know how they say, you're going to be on a pink cloud for a long time. No, I was on a pink cloud for 13 years. 13 years, but you know what? My time hit. I wish I would have got it early, like some of y'all coming in and like that. I came in, like it was great when I came in, but I had to feel it at 13 years sobriety, and I went through hell for 6 years in sobriety. And when I say I lost everything, here's the short version. I lost everything. I moved back to the hood where I was staying at. I moved back to my mom's house. And I was staying at my mom's house, and I could not believe I was there. I wanted to die every day. And I remember my ex-wife coming to pick up my son, and I would just think, like, how did I get here? How did I get here? Then I went back to school because I wasn't acting anymore. Because at the time, I wasn't acting. My show was over with. I had an aorta transplant in my heart. My dad died. I mean, it was just hitting me left and right, man. And I went back to school, and I remember... The thing I remember about the most, man, I tear up every time I think about it. I was getting on the bus every day in the neighborhood I grew up in. Getting on the bus in my neighborhood was like, yo, I don't ride the bus. I was riding the bus, and I was getting up at 5 in the morning every day going to school every single day because I had to do something because I was stuck for those 3 years, and I wasn't doing anything. And I remember getting on that bus, going to school, getting off, and then walking a mile to school. Like, this is stuff I didn't even do when I was growing up, you know, and I was like, wow, this is humbling. I used to be on the top show. I used to be this person's friend. I used to be that person's friend. And all that stuff was ended. And you know what I had to understand is, is there a God or is there not a God? Because God was good when everything was good in my life. Hey, D, how you doing? Psh, God is good. I got the wife. I got the kid. I got the cribs. I got cars. I got everything. God is phenomenal. But is God still good when you don't have it all? And you know what? I had to really do some soul searching. I had to get on my knees. And I tell you what, you know, God is good. Because I made it out of that. I made it through that. I made it through that better than ever. And then I found out who my real friends were. You know, and because it's easy to have friends when you got it going on because you can't see anything. You can't see anything at all. And I ended up winning out of this situation, you know, like I'm glad I went through that pain. I'm glad I went through that pain because now I know I really got faith. And my life is better than it's ever been, you know. If you're new in here, welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, your story may not be my story, but your story is like somebody else's story. And I don't want people to ever feel sorry for me because I know somebody in here and I know somebody who's been through things worse than I have been. So I never complained about it. It was a beautiful journey. You know, nothing amazing happens in your comfort zone. That's what I know. And my life is freaking amazing because I got uncomfortable with some things and I went through the pain. So, you know, I may not be what I want to be, but thank God I'm not what I used to be. You know, God is good in my life today. So thank you guys for letting me share. Do I do it? Oh, okay. Are there any questions? Mike White, your ass was sleeping through the whole meeting. I couldn't even believe it. Mike White, I heard Deezer. I heard him a lot of times. Melanie. I'm sorry, man. I didn't even hear you. Can you talk about almost relapsing? I wanted to relapse. You know, she asked me, what about relapsing, about almost relapsing? I said I wanted to relapse. Like, I wasn't at that stage where I really wanted to relapse. I wanted to blow my brains out. You know what I mean? I wanted to die. I didn't think drinking and using was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. I used to sleep, and I used to wake up in the morning and go, man, I can't believe I'm still alive. Like I wanted to be dead because I couldn't take the pain. It was excruciating because I was so used to having everything. And I always tell people this: what do you do when you always won in your life? You know, since I was a kid, I played sports. I've always started, always been a captain on my team. I become an actor. I get my first audition. I've always worked. Everything's always gone my way. But what happens when all that stops? And you're the go-to person, and people always ask you for stuff, and it's like I didn't have anybody to ask. I didn't have anywhere to go. So that's how I build that relationship with God, because I go, you better be real, man. Oh, hey, John, how are you?
Talk about your son. How did this whole breakup and this whole pain that you were going through affect your relationship or your mind with your son?
He said, talk about my son and how did my relationship go with my son. My son was 4 months at the time. The greatest thing about my son's mother, if you talk to me, I'll never talk bad about her. I learned that in Alcoholics Anonymous. And she brought me to see my son, and my thing was every other weekend. That was the contract. I see my son every other weekend. So it was very embarrassing that at the first part of the time that my son had to come to my mom's house. I felt like I was in a movie, and but I was doing the best that I can. And, they're kids. They don't know. You just spend time with them. Do the best that I can. That's what I learned in Alcoholics Anonymous. He's 9 today, and her and I don't even go off that contract anymore. I go see my son. They live far away, like 100 miles away. I drive out there like 3-4 times a week, pick up my son for school, take him to practice. I got a key to her condo out there where she lives at, and I go to her place. We have a cool relationship. I spend the night over there. It's an amicable relationship now. That didn't happen like that, and it wouldn't have never happened if it wasn't for Alcoholics Anonymous. That is the truth, because I heard that in these rooms that people can get along after that kind of stuff, and and we get along like great. Now, do I agree with everything she say? Hell to the no. Hell to the no. And but I don't get into any conflicts with her because it's my son's mother. He never heard me go off or heard her go off or say anything bad about each other. But it was arduous, when it first went down. So. I'll go.
Would you mind sharing somewhat specifically your experience with steps 1, 2, and 3?
No. She said, "What I care is experience my experience with step 1, 2, and 3," and I don't know how to break that down for you, but I went through the book. This guy was taking me through the book, and as we were going through the book, we were going through steps. My first time around, that's how I went through it. Like, he would take me through the steps. And you know what? I'm going to be honest. Some people ain't going to like this, what I say, but I didn't do a whole lot of writing and all that kind of stuff, because I hear people and that's cool. Don't get it twisted. If that's what you do, it's cool. I didn't do a whole lot of writing or anything because my guy was like, just get right down to the point. I know what you mean, and God knows what you mean. Just get to the point and write. And so I just did step by step and write what I was supposed to write. And then I love where it says, another thing is, you guys, I didn't believe in God either before I came in Alcoholics Anonymous. Like, y'all was holding hands and praying, I would be gone. And y'all freaking me out right now. Bunch of church people, right? And but he broke that down. Came to believe. Came to believe. Meaning that you don't even have to believe. Because one day you might come to believe that there's a power greater than yourself. So it says came to believe, and that got me through that, But yeah, so there you go. Oh, he said last question, so don't be mad at me. And she was first.
Will you share about your most significant 9-step amends?
Oh, okay. She asked me to share about my 9-step amends. I'll give you one of my amends. The two hard ones for my amends was my parents, and I'll just say a place that I robbed, and we just gonna say a place. Well, my parents, it was hard because it's so hard to even ask that because I just tear up on that because I think about the hell I put them through, And I didn't do it until like a year later because it was so hard. And I remember my life was good and everything was going on. They were sitting in the front yard and I rolled up and none of the other kids were around. So it was the time to go up to them and make an amends. And I knew my father wasn't going to know how to handle it because he's one of those guys who don't love, you know. And I told him that I apologized for all the stuff I did. And I ran it down. I had a list. And they didn't really want to hear it. They kept saying, no, it's okay. I go, no, it's not okay. It's not okay, because your parents will tell you, like, it's because they'll get uncomfortable with it. Like, my parents got uncomfortable with it. And I said, no, I have to do this. And my mom was tearing up. And my dad, I never seen him cry. He just had water in his eyes. And so that was a tough one. And the other one was, I used to work at a fast food place, and I became the manager in the 10th grade, and I thought I was special, and so I was working there, and I called one of my buddies up. I said, dude, you want to get a job here? And I got him a job and got another friend a job. And then one of my buddies was noticing so much money coming in on a certain day. So he thought, man, we need to take this money and say we got robbed. I said, okay, I'm not going to be working that day. You guys call me, then I'll call the manager. And did that. And make a long story short, I had to go back and make that amends when I got sober. I go, do I have to make amends like that? And then the guy I was going to steps with goes, how free do you want to be? I was like, man. And so by this time, I'm doing great in life. I don't have any financial problems. And I go up there and I go, hey, how you doing? Can I see the manager? And they go get the manager, and this lady walks out. She goes, hey, what could I do for you? I go, how you doing, ma'am? I say, I used to work at this establishment when I was in high school. I'm in this 12-step program. And in this 12-step program, we have a 9th step when we do something wrong that we have to admit our wrongs. And when I worked here, I robbed you guys for money. And I came here today to make it right. And I just pulled out the stack of cash and put it right there. And she started crying. I said, she said, you just keep doing what you're doing. She said, keep doing what you're doing. And I couldn't even believe it. I thought like she was going to call the cops. I thought I was going to go to jail. And I was like, man, I'm on the show now, man. And I'm going to go to jail for robbing some in high school. And she said, just keep doing what you're doing. And I took that money and I thought, party time, and my sponsor said, you go donate it. You go donate it to a charity, and that's what I did. And you messed me up right now, you know that, right? So that's all I have. Thank you.